वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरम्. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all to DISHA 56, a new series of an inward journey to discover our inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita. My dear friends, tomorrow is Vaishakha Shuddha Panchami, a very auspicious day for all of us, for our nation and for the entire mankind. It is a day on which the Sanatana Dharma got a rebirth. Yes, it is the day Guru of Gurus, Jagat Guru, Sri Shankara Bhagavatpada was born. We celebrate this day as Shankara Jayanti. There are several theories about the period of Shankara's life. Most accepted theory among them says his period was 788 to 820 CE. It's 13 centuries since Shankara lived, but how is that the person and his philosophy are so relevant even today? What is the value of his contribution to the mankind? To know this, we must look at the situation that was prevailing when Shankara was born. In those days, ancient India was sunk in a quagmire of superstitions and scriptural misinterpretations. Degraded ritualism flourished. The essence of Sanatana Dharma, with its all-embracing message of love, compassion, and the universality of humankind, was completely lost in the blind performance of these rituals. Not only this, there were various anti-Vedic schools like Charvaka, Buddha, Jaina, Sankhya, Vaisheshika, Kalamukhi, Kapalika, etc., which accounted to 72 in number. It's his brilliance of Shankara that he addressed questions and doubts of all these schools in the form of Purva Pakshi in his Bhashya to Brahma Sutra and mitigated the slightest of doubts. Shankaracharya not only engaged proponents of all these schools into debates, but convincingly defeated all of them to expound the Advaita philosophy. So great was Shankara's quest for the truth that he embraced sannyasa when he was 8 years old. By 16, he had not only mastered but also written commentaries on the Brahma Sutra, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and other prominent Vedic texts. His contribution to Indian philosophy, in fact humanity, is so perpetual that all the later philosophers have only tried to refute or elaborate his ideas. Indian philosophy has come to be identified with the Vedanta that Shankara commented upon. Though majority of his works such as Viveka Chudamani, Atma Bodha, Aparoksha Anubhuti, Ananda Lahari, Atma Anatma Viveka, Drik Drishya Viveka, and Upadesha Sahasri concentrate on Advaita, he equally pitches on Bhakti, since he believed that Bhakti was a very essential step for Chitta Shuddhi, without which self-realization was not possible. Apart from 18 Bhashya Granthas and 23 Prakarana Granthas, he also composed 73 verses and hymns in the praise of various deities. He introduced the Panchayatana form of worship, the simultaneous worship of 5 deities, Ganesha, Surya, Vishnu, Shiva, and Devi. Shankara was an intellectual genius, a profound philosopher, an able propagandist, a matchless preacher, a gifted poet, and a great religious reformer. Let us bow our heads at the lotus feet of this Jagat Guru on this day and continue our discovery of inner strength through Bhagavad Gita. In today's session, we'll be commencing study of Kshetra Yoga, the 13th chapter with verses 1 to 7. Srimati Rama Gopala Krishna will be the speaker of the day who will explain these verses. She will also touch upon the topic on the Atma as explained in Tatvas. After the talk by Srimati Rama Madam, we will have a teaching quiz on the topics covered by her. This part of today's session will be handled by Srimati Mamata Shankar. Now it's shloka time, and Srimati Indumati Venkat is going to explain the opening verses of Sri Dakshina Murthy Ashtakam, one of the great compositions by Shankara Bhagavad Pada. It is appropriate that today Indu Madam has chosen the Dakshina Murthy Ashtakam composed by Shankara. Later, Dr. Hegde sir will give us introduction to the day's topic. Now, I invite Indu ma'am to explain the sloka of the day. Over to you, Indumati madam.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivodbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yes Sakshat Kurute Prabhoda Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Muktaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Of all the hymns of Sri Adi Shankara, Sri Dakshina Murti Stotra, this is the shortest stotram, but at the same time, in the philosophical import, subtlety of expression, and confidence of assertion, it is one of the most inspired works of the Advaita philosopher. These are discussions with students who have already studied fully the Shastras and are now ready to enter into their meditation seats. This shloka is looked upon as a summary of the entire Upanishads and the following stanzas as a commentary upon the opening verse. This shloka says, he who experiences the time of realization, his own non-dual, immutable self, in which the self alone plays in the universe of names and forms, like a city seen in a mirror, due to the Maya power, as though produced outside as a dream. To him, the divine teacher, Sri Dakshina Murti, is this prostration. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Induji, for reminding us of this most wonderful Sri Dakshina Murti Stotra. Sada Shiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Thank you very much, Sri Venkatesh Prasad, for bringing us so much inputs on this great Acharya, Adi Shankaracharya, to whom we owe so much. We now enter the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and suddenly you see the difficulty becomes more. We enter into the third Shatkam of the Bhagavad Gita, and our teacher for today, Ramaji, will tell us all about how the Gita is divided into Shatkams. But what I would like to emphasize about this chapter, even before we begin, is we experience real difficulty because the real teaching of the Gita is here in the 13th, 14th, and the 15th chapters. And therefore, the whole structure of the DISHA from now will be going a little slow. We'll be going into the details of these verses because the real spiritual wisdom, the Upanishadic wisdom, is given in these three chapters. And all the chapters until now are kind of a preparation for the revelation of the teaching Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandana. When you study the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you will see some books have 34 verses and some books will have 35 verses. And that is because many of the earlier books and some Gitas will not have this first verse, which is a question by Arjuna. It appears, therefore, that this verse has been added on by subsequent teachers in the same Anustup Chandas, making it very relevant with Arjuna Uvacha Yetad Veditum Ichchami. I would like to know what is Prakritim, what is Purusham, what is Kshetra, what is kṣetraṁ, what is Jnanam, which is Gneyam, because many of the traditional books will begin with Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Now, if you take this book, then you will see the Bhagavad Gita will have 701 verses. Otherwise, the Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses. Of these 700 verses, it would be of interest to note that Srikrishna has spoken on 575 verses. Arjuna's contribution is 85 verses. Sanjaya, he will come in the first chapter, and you will see in the 11th chapter, in Vishwarupa Ishvara, when Arjuna is stuck in wonderment in watching the Virat Rupa. Both Shri Krishna is not speaking, Arjuna is not speaking, and Sanjaya has to take over. And all of us know how the Bhagavad Gita begins with a question from Dhritarashtra to Sanjaya to explain what exactly is happening in the battlefield. Now, this is the picture of the different verses in the different chapters. And you will see the longest is the final summary, the 78 verses in the 18th chapter. And then the second chapter is like an initial preview of the whole Bhagavad Gita, an initial summary with 72 verses. Again, about Madhusudana Saraswati, our speaker Ramaji will be speaking more about Madhusudana Saraswati, a great Acharya who was in Varanasi and who wrote this commentary on the Bhagavad Gita called the Gudartha Deepika. The word Gudartha means the hidden meaning, which the Deepika, the lamp which illumines the hidden meaning between the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. It is because of these commentaries that the Bhagavad Gita has the verses, you see a greater impact of the same verses as seen by different teachers. Madhusudana Saraswati has added a few things. One was the Gita Dhyana Shlokas. And because they are so musical and so nice, many subsequent teachers have added them. You will see the conclusion of each chapter, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Su, Upanishadsu. All these are all additions by Sri Madhusudana Saraswati. And it is probable that the first verse was also added by him. About this, I'm not 100% sure, but I probably think so. We will listen to Ramaji about the first 7 verses of this chapter and also a little bit about the related topic on Atma as part of Tattva Bodha. Ramaji, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Let us try to discover the inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita verses 13.1 to 13.7. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Let me do Namaskaram to Shankaracharya, Adi Guru Shankaracharya, as well as Sri Krishna, the Jagat Guru. Today we will try to explore Kshetra, Kshetrajna, as mentioned in the 13th chapter called Kshetra, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. Madhusudana Saraswati, one of the well-known Advaitin, wrote an extensive commentary on the Bhagavad Gita called the Gudartha Deepika, meaning the lamp of hidden intent. He says that the message of Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Tattvamasi Mahavakya, the great Upanishadic statement. Any statement revealing Jiva Ishvara Swarupa Aikyam is a Mahavakya. The 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita can be classified into 3 broad categories called Shatkas, each discussing 3 main topics. Prathama Shatkam mainly deals with Jiva Swarupam or Tvam Padarthaha, an intensified inquiry into the individual through Karma Yoga as a sadhanam, and Prayatnaha, the importance of the individual effort contributing to the future. Ishvara Swarupam or Tat Padarthaha, Ishvara or Saguna Brahman, is taken up for study in the Madhyama Shatkam. Meditation upon Ishvara or Upasana Yoga as a sadhanam and Ishvara Krupa or Anugraham are also described. Jiva Ishvara Swarupa Aikyam, the methodology of attaining Asi, the unity between the individual and the universal consciousness, is established in the coming chapters from the 13th onwards. Jnana Yoga is the sadhanam to discover this essential oneness. The central idea of Tattvamasi Mahavakyam is also described. This Jnana Yoga is also known as Vedanta Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. That will be highlighted in the chapters 13, 14, and 15. The last topic in the Antima Shatkam is Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampattihi or Sadgunaha, the importance of noble values. It prepares the mind to absorb the teachings of Guru and Shastras. Therefore, a seeker should prepare the ground before sowing the Mahavakya seed and make sure that these virtues are acquired. In the opening verse of 13th chapter, we see Arjuna's query about 6 paribhashika shabdas, the technical words used in the scriptures. Inclusion of this shloka spoken by Arjuna brings the total number of shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita to 701. Many versions of the Bhagavad Gita do not include this shloka. So the 13th chapter begins either with Arjuna's question or with Bhagavan's answer to his questions. Arjuna's eagerness to learn these 6 terms provides the contents of the whole chapter. It covers Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, Bandha, Moksha, and Sadhana aspects mentioned in Vedanta. The 6 terms are Prakrutihi, the material universe, Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetraṁ, the field of activities, kṣetraജ്ña, the knower of the field, Jnanam, the knowledge, and Jneyam, the goal of knowledge. The experienced universe and the body-mind complex are known as kṣetraṁ. They are made of matter. They are achetana tattvam, that is inert and objective in nature. Both kṣetraṁ and prakriti mean the same and are anatmas. Purushaha, kṣetraజ్ఞः, and Jneyam are synonyms of Chaitanya Tattvam, the consciousness principle which is subjective in nature. Jnanam generally means knowledge, but in this chapter, it means sadgunaha, the virtues or values. Srikrishna enumerates 20 virtues in the verses 8 to 11. Thus, 2 entities, Atma, the self, and Anatma, the non-self, comprise this universe. The same was termed as Deha and Dehi in chapter 2, and as Paraprakriti, higher nature, and Aparaprakriti, his lower nature, in chapter 7. In this chapter, he labels them as kṣetraజ్ఞः and kṣetraṁ. These 6 terms are reduced to 3 main topics, namely kṣetraṁ, kṣetraజ్ఞः, and jnanam. This is the background of his question. Sri Krishna answers all of them beautifully in the verses to follow. Now, Sri Krishna defines Kshetra and Kshetrajna in the verse number 2. A wetland used for raising crops or plants is called kshetraṁ. This body, mind, and the universe is the field. The punya, papa, karmas, the karma phalas punya, papa, karma phalas earned in the previous janmas are like seeds fructifying into sukham and dukkham in this janma. He says to Arjuna that idam shariram kṣetraṁ ityabhidhiyate. Here, idam is the seen as different from the seer. It refers to this body, mind, senses, and the personality that you experience is an object to you, the consciousness. The kshetra is the entire experienced universe. The conscious being in the kshetra experiencing it from within is kṣetraజ్ఞः. In this verse, he calls it as veti, the knower of the field, existence, and is subjective in nature. The Shruti Vakya defines Brahman as yo veti sa sarvam nachayasya veta. One who knows all, whom nobody knows, is the definition of kṣetraజ్ఞ also. The omniscient intelligence that is operating as this material manifestation is kṣetraజ్ఞ. Tadvidaha in the shloka refers to the great Jnanis who realize the kṣetraඥa by practicing nididhyasana and see it with the kṣetraṁ, an incidental body. Just as form and former are different, so also the kshetra and kshetrajna are different. As the former has all the knowledge to use the form to do forming, so also the kshetrajna transacts with the world of objects. Kshetra causes bondage through karma. Kshetrajna directs us to the moksha. The Gnani knows them as two different entities, and Kshetrajna manifests in Kshetram. This is the Aparoksha Gnana. Further, Sri Krishna explains, Kshetragnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Here, Sri Krishna says that all these bodies, minds, and jivas present in this Kurukshetra are all fields. I am the former, and every jiva is one of my many forms. Know me alone to be the consciousness identified and associated with these fields individually as Kshetrajna. Hence, in an individual or to say microcosmic sense, we may consider the Kshetra as a material manifestation in the form of this body and Kshetrajna as the inner self, the Jivatma. The consciousness associated with total bodies, minds, and identifying with the entire universe as its own body is Ishvara. The entire universe is the Kshetra, the field of action of the consciousness. It is the Kshetrajna in the Kshetrajna in the macrocosmic sense, and it is called Paramatma. And individuals, all individuals whatsoever, right from Brahma the creator down to an atom, are indwelt by me, and I know all things as the omniscient knower. Kshetra kshetrajnayor gnanam yattad gnanam matam mama. This is the knowledge that liberates. The reality of a wave and an ocean is water. The containers are different, but the content, water, is same. Similarly, Kshetrajna is both Jivatma and Paramatma. The one reality behind them is the Atma. This Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya Gnanam is revealed in this shloka. Therefore, this verse is called Mahavakya Shloka. Now, in the next verse, analysis of Kshetra and Kshetrajna is given. So, he says, Tat Kshetram Yaccha Yadruk. So, what is Kshetram? And what is its nature? Yad Vikari, what are its modifications? Yes, Yatascha Yat. What are the causes and effects included in the Kshetra? So these are all the details of Kshetram. And now he says, Sacha Yaha. What is Kshetrajna? Yet Prabhavascha. What are the glories and features of the Kshetrajna? Vibhutihi or Mahima is called Prabhava. So the entire Karyakarana Pancha is Kshetram and Karyakarana Vilakshanaha is Kshetrajnaha. This is the liberating knowledge mentioned in the second verse as Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Gnanam. And it is referred to here as Tat. I will explain briefly. May you listen to that carefully. Samasena Shunu says Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna further glorifies this topic in the next verse, that is Rishibhihi Bahudha Gita. In this verse, the three major sources of knowledge known as Prasthana Traya are hinted. The Smriti Prasthana, Bhagavad Gita, the Shruti Prasthana, the Upanishads, or the Chandaha as referred to in this shloka, the Nyaya Prasthana, Brahma Sutras. This Kshetram and Kshetrajna Viveka Gnanam has been distinctively sung in all its glory in the scriptures. The great Rishis extol this in the Upanishads, the Vedas, and the Brahma Sutras with their logical arguments. Scriptures deal with these two important topics alone because Kshetra includes the entire material universe and Kshetrajna is the consciousness, and the whole universe or whole creation is a mixture of matter and consciousness. Now, what are the constituents of this Kshetra? is explained in the next verse. Having introduced Kshetra and Kshetrajna, now Srikrishna elaborates on the 24 components of kṣetraṁ evolving in 4 stages. The 8 principles of the lower Prakriti given in chapter 7 are now expanded and detailed as 24 principles. Sankhya philosophy divides the whole objective world into 24 categories called Tatvas. The constituents of this macrocosmic kshetra or Brahmanda is Mahabhutaha, Ahankaraha, Buddhihi, Avyaktam, he says. And it refers to the well-known Sankhya categories of Prakriti, Mahat, and Ahankara, and the 5 elements. The Ahankara, Buddhi, and Avyakta mentioned here correspond exactly to Sankhya principle of Ahankara, Mahat, and Prakriti. Or in other words, Ahankara corresponds to Virat, Buddhi corresponds to Hiranyagarbha, and Avyakta corresponds to Ishvara. So Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, Virat, and 5 Tanmatras, the 5 subtle elements, namely Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, constitute the entire cosmos. The potential form of the universe before its manifestation is called Avyaktam or Prakriti. As you can see in the next slide, the evolution takes place in stages. It is a beginningless principle. Prakriti evolves into Buddhi or Mahat Tattvam in the first stage of evolution. Mahat is the total matter. Mahat evolves into Ahankara, also called cosmic ego, in the second stage. Ahankara evolves into 16 tattvams in the third stage. They are Pancha Mahabhutas, Pancha Sukshma Bhutas. So, 5 subtle elements, Prakriti, Buddhi, and Ahankara form the kṣetraṁ at macrocosmic level. The kṣetraṁ at microcosmic level includes Indriyani Dashaikancha. Ekam is the cosmic mind. Dasha Indriyani is 10 sense organs. Out of these 16 tattvas, 5 organs of perception, the eyes, skin, tongue, nose, and 5 organs of action, namely Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha, together with the mind as the chief perceiving faculty, constitute the 11. Thus, there are 11 cognitive and perceptive faculties in the individual. Pancha Chendriya Gocharaha. Indriya Gocharaha means the 5 objects of sensory cognition, together with the mind and the 10 organs, constitute the substance of the individual or microcosmic kṣetraṁ. So, Avyaktam, Buddhihi, Ahankaraha, cosmic mind, 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, 5 subtle elements, and 5 gross elements make the 24 tattvas. Now, in the next verse, Sri Krishna explains how does the individual kshetra connect with its own individual kṣetrajña and come into contact with the external macrocosmic field and the knower of the field, kṣetrajña. Now the nature of the field is answered in the verse 7. Our physical body, mind, and this universe are due to modifications of 5 subtle or gross elements. Even though mind is inert in nature, it has got a unique nature to reflect the consciousness and appear as though sentient. A live mind experiences the world as desirable and undesirable ones. The body-mind complex is called Sanghataha, consisting of all the above 24 tattvas considered together as a unit. Chetana means borrowed sentiency. It is awareness at the level of body, mind, and the senses. Mind converts the kshetraṁ into a vishaya by developing raga and dvesha towards them. Vishayas are objects capable of binding a person. They result in sukham and dukkham. Thus, ichha, dvesha, sukham, sanghataha, and the chetana, the reflected consciousness, all are kshetraṁ. Dhrutihi means willpower. Willpower is used to acquire objects of joy, which is called pravrihi, and let go the objects of sorrow, called nivrittihi. Etat kṣetraṁ. In short, the 24 tattvams mentioned in the 6th verse is the kṣetraṁ. Samasena savikaram udahrutam. Along with its 7 modifications like ichcha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham, etc., described in the scripture is kṣetraṁ. Thus, Srikrishna concludes his analysis of kṣetraṁ and kṣetrajña in these verses. The entire cosmic structure and the individual structure are summed up in the verses 6 and 7. This comprehensive knowledge, briefly mentioned so far, is the kshetra kṣetraඥayor gnanam mentioned in the verse number 3. This is considered to be the supreme and the real knowledge which liberates the seeker. Now let us see, based on Tattva Bodha, we will try to understand Atma, Anatma, Viveka and features of the Atma. The 3 bodies called gross, subtle and causal are made up of matter, and therefore they are inert, non-conscious and insentient in nature. They neither have consciousness of their own nor produce consciousness. Logically, the 3 bodies are known to be insentient, but our experience is different. So the 3 bodies must have borrowed consciousness and appear to be sentient. The lender of consciousness is the 4th factor, turiya, of the jiva, and is called the Atma or the self. The electricity which makes the bulb shine is invisible. In the same way, Atma is the invisible factor which makes the 3 bodies shine with consciousness. Atma is the one that gives jiva sentiency. Now let us see the discrimination between the self and the non-self. If the non-material consciousness is called the self or Atma, then the rest, including material 3 bodies, is called non-self or Anatma. So every individual is a combination of material non-self, that is 3 bodies, and the non-material self, the consciousness. The first step in Vedanta study is to understand and discriminate the self and the non-self. The Upanishads teach us to gradually train to renounce our identification with the material perishable Anatma and learn to identify with the eternal Atma. This training has to be practiced by every seeker through Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana of Vedantic teachings. This Atma, Anatma, Viveka is the first qualification for a seeker. Atma is the kṣetraඥa and all Anatmas are kshetras as mentioned by Srikrishna. Now we will see the important features of Atma, which Puja Swamiji terms as my new resume. Atma is Chaitanya Swarupaha or Chit Swarupaha, as you see in this slide. Atma is non-material in nature. It is of the nature of consciousness itself, and lends sentiency. Atma is Swatantraha. Atma is an independent principle because it is not dependent on matter either for its production or its existence. Atma is Nirgunaha. All attributes belong to matter. The attributes such as sound, touch, form, taste, smell, and all these belong to the 5 elements called space, air, fire, water, and earth and their products. Even any nama and rupa, name and forms, also belong to anatmas. Atma is eternal and beyond time, so it is nityaha. Time is a property of the material universe. Even when matter disintegrates or perishes, Atma continues to survive. So even when the physical bodies die, Atma continues to exist. Therefore, Atma is eternal. Atma is all-pervasive. It is sarvavyapi or sarvagataha. Atma is not confined within the 3 bodies only. It transcends the 3 bodies, and Atma pervades all the jivas in the creation. Therefore, Atma is Sarvagataha or like Akashaha. Atma is non-dual, Ekaha, Advayaha. Atma is the consciousness principle behind all jivas, even though the jivas are many. Like the one sun reflected in many containers with different liquids. Therefore, Atma is singular, non-dual, Advayaha or Advaitaha. Puja Swami Paramarthananda ji humorously calls Atma as Dena Bank because it lends consciousness, and all Anatmas as Lena Bank, which borrows or receives consciousness always. So Lena and Dena continues as long as we are not realized that I am none other than Dena Bank itself, and there is no one to Lena. Thank you. Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ramaji, for an absolute brilliant presentation. And those who have done some study of the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, who have some understanding of this chapter, one thing you will realize that once you have understood, to put it in words becomes so difficult. Perhaps the best words are Swamiji's words, but yet words sometimes may tend to confuse rather than convey. And therefore, a sincere student shall make one's effort by listening to these teachings again and again. And then when you try to explain, you realize the real difficulty and the limitations in words. This is a beautiful chapter, a difficult chapter. In the first part, when Ramaji was explaining about those 24 tattvas, that part is about from Sankhya philosophy. And Sankhya philosophy, Srikrishna borrows it for a certain explanation about Atma and Anatma Viveka. And certainly, I would personally feel that if it becomes too difficult to understand, we may let go without losing much as far as spiritual wisdom. But here is where we need to really focus on, and that is the importance of this chapter, Kshetra, Kṣetrajña, Vibhaga, and so very nicely brought out by Ramaji by bringing in the Tattva Bodha portion of the Atma, Anatma, Viveka, and our new resume to see I am Atma, Brahma, and see that you are the Dena Bank and not the Lena Bank. Now, that is what I would like to emphasize. If I would like to touch on the easier part, what Sri Krishna said in the second verse, that is how in some texts, this will be the opening verse where Sri Krishna begins by saying, Idam Shariram Kaunteya. Now, it looks like, you know, how Sri Krishna is talking about this Idam Shariram Kaunteya. That is why when Arjuna's question comes, what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna? The answer seems to be more relevant. What Sri Krishna says is, whatever we experience, the field of experience is kṣetraṁ. And of all the things that I experience, that something that is most intimate and close to me is my own body. My body means my mind also. And this understanding is the fundamental and the most important step in Vedanta. Just like when Neil Armstrong landed in the moon, he made one statement, one small step for man, but a giant step for mankind. This seems that Atma, Anatma, Viveka, I am someone other than my body, seems to be a small statement. But in the step of Vedanta, when you understand, I am someone other than the body. So Sri Krishna is trying to say, this body is the field of experience like kṣetraṁ, just like the field of my experience. But this body is not my real nature. Now, this understanding may take many years, but the moment it takes, this understanding happens, that is what we need to work on. I am not my body. I am the experiencer of my body-mind. I am the one who uses this body-mind. I have lived in many bodies in this life. I have lived in many bodies before. I am someone other than the body. Then who am I? I am the kṣetraṁ. I am the knower of the field. In the next verse, Sri Krishna introduces a Mahavakya, where he says, kṣetraඥam chapi mam viddhi. The one who knows this body, the one who experiences this body, one who experiences this world, please know is none other than the Srikrishna principle, not only in your body, but in every body. That means all of us are essentially the same. For the time being, we have played a role of using different bodies. We are using different bodies, and then we are having a big drama. But essentially, the more you understand that the one I'm speaking to is not apart from me. I'm only making a little drama of teacher and student, but we are all one consciousness principle in this great drama of this world. When you understand this, what is called a Mahavakya, any statement which reveals the essential identity of the individual with Srikrishna or Paramatma is called Mahavakya. In the Vedas, there are sample Mahavakyas from the Rig Veda, which is called Prajnana Brahmam, from the Yajur Veda, which is Aham Brahmasmi, from the Sama Veda, coming from Chandogya Upanishad, the Tattvam Asi, and from the Atharva Veda, Mandukya Upanishad, as I am Atma Brahma. A lot of details have gone into these 4 Mahavakyas, but if you look, these are only sample Mahavakyas, just like this verse, kṣetraṁ chapi mam viddhi sarva kṣetreshu bharata, is a Mahavakya. Like that, you will find in the Bhagavad Gita so many Mahavakyas. And whenever we come to those Mahavakyas, Swamiji stops and brings our attention to these verses and says these are the verses that we need to meditate on, to be able to focus on, because this will help us to identify. And of all the verses in the entire Bhagavad Gita, I would like you to pay attention on this verse, verse 3, if there are 35 verses, kṣetraṁ chapi mam viddhi sarva kṣetreshu bharata. And then Srikrishna says, that kṣetraṁ vibhaga, if you can make that distinction between the knower of the field of experiences and the object of experience, which we also call as Drik Drishya Viveka, Mama Matam, in my opinion, that is the real knowledge. So all the rest of this chapter will be focusing on what Ramaji brought about as Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Among the gifts that Swamiji has given us, which is most unique in his teachings, which perhaps no other teacher has been able to give us so clearly, and with a lot of emphasis, is what Swamiji calls again and again as the fundamental laws of Vedanta. You will see why I am emphasizing this again and again, and many of my regular students would feel, no, it is so repetitive. Even if it is repetitive, be patient with me. I want you to be able to understand the importance and to see how we can internalize this teaching. The first teaching can also be called Drik Drishya Viveka, or the first fundamental principle. Remember, this is also, later on we will study as Adhyaropa Apavada. We are creating a situation which is going to be resolved. So the first fundamental principles are actually a kind of a drama. And what the drama says is, I am other than whatever I experience. Whatever I experience is Anatma. Whatever I experience is of a lower order of reality. I, as Atma, I am Paramarthika, I am of a higher order of reality. Whatever I experience is either Vyavahara or Pratibhasika. This is the first step. And as I said, this is not a small step. It is a giant step. It's a giant leap to be able to keep this distinction. I am something other than what I experience. And this is called the Atma Anatma of Viveka. The second and mega step, and this is what brings us freedom. This is what brings us Purnatvam. In fact, just meditating on these 2 fundamental laws of Vedanta is enough if you sit with a teacher to be able to get Brahma Vidya, to get Purnatvam, to get Tripti, and so on. All attributes I experience belong to the object of experience. If I'm seeing an object in front of me, for example, this, which is black, black now belongs to this object. I am not black. So too, Swamiji says, whatever you experience, anything that you experience, I experience this body, I am not this body. This body has a certain weight, this body has a certain height. I have no weight, I have no height. The body has certain dimensions in space. I have no dimensions in space. The body has a location in space. I have no location. If I'm not located, then where am I? Don't say I'm locationless. I am all pervading. I am limitlessness in space. This body has a date of birth and a date of departure from this world. I have been there from the very beginning, if there is a beginning. I'm just saying, like, if there is a beginning, because I am Anadi, I am beginningless, and I will be there till the very end if there is an end. That means I am Anadi, I am Ananta. Just this fact is so tremendously liberating, because what drives us and what is all our actions are focused and all our insecurities is because what will happen to me when I get old? When will I die? What will happen to me if I fall sick? All that happens to the body, and we have to say, I am not this body. The body is only an instrument. I have had many bodies before. I have in and through many bodies, and therefore I am not this body. Therefore, the conclusion is I am nirguna, and nirguna comes in time. That means I am nitya. Nirguna comes in space, that I am all pervading, and nirguna comes is body. I have no limitations with this body. Now, Viveka is of three types. In fact, from now on, 13th, 14th, and the 15th chapter, when we understand who is Purushottama, which is the real climax of the Bhagavad Gita. 13th chapter takes you to near the climax. The 15th chapter takes you to the climax when you realize I am Purushottama, I am of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda. So there are three types of Viveka. This has been given to us by Swami Anubhavanandaji. I should be able to distinguish between what is there in all three periods of time, that which is there in all three periods of time. Something awake in the waking phase, dream phase, deep sleep phase. In all the three, this world disappears the moment I fall asleep. And the moment I start dreaming, I get into another totally dream world. So this body is not there in my deep sleep. This body is not there in the dream world. I'm using some other body. So my body is not there, and this whole world is not there in my dream state or in my deep sleep. It is there only in one avastha, in my waking avastha. So this body and the world come under the asat category. The observer of the body mind is called the sat category. So the consciousness. Then I am conscious. Everything else that I experience is of a lower order of reality. And this is called the DRISHA Viveka. And therefore I am conscious. And the term in Sanskrit for consciousness is Chit. Now then we need to say, I am Ananta. I as Atma am limitless. So there is only one. When you realize your true nature, you experience tremendous amount of loneliness. Because of other than you, there is nobody else, really. Because everybody is included in me. No one else is apart from me. When you have that level of understanding, when you realize I am Ananta, that means when there is no sense of limit. Because when you come to me, when I see you as apart from me, you limit me. You become other than me. And when there is a you, then all the problems between me and you start. But when I see there is no other, I always speak about this when Bhagwan Ramana was asked how to treat others. His prompt answer was, there are no others. Because everybody comes for a jnani under the definition of me. And once you see you are limitless in time, space, and object, although you see many people, my experiences are Dvaita, but my understanding is Advaita. I am limitless. I include everybody. There is nobody other than me. Then I experience my limitlessness, my Anantatvam, and then I know what is Ananda. My true nature is Sat Chit Ananda. And therefore, from now on, until the end of this chapter, we have to work on this entity, what is Atma, Anatma, Viveka. I am other than whatever I experience. Synonym is Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Viveka. Synonym is Drishya, Viveka. And toward the end of this chapter, Srikrishna comes once again by calling it Purusha, Prakriti, Viveka. Again, going back to Sankhya philosophy. Whenever you go to Sankhya philosophy, you experience a lot of difficulty. And that is why I said, when you see that kind of difficulty, it is okay if you drop that difficulty aspect, but come into the essence of I am other than whatever I experience. I will conclude with a few phrases that I want you to understand. Remember, even though whenever you say I, we have to understand I am a mixture of both body, mind. As consciousness, I am akarta, I am abhokta, I cannot speak, I cannot listen. If I have to interact with this world, I have to use this body, mind. And therefore, in reality, whenever somebody asks, who are you? You say, I'm a mixture of this body and mind. The body and mind is only an instrument. It is of a lower order. And the body mind is always changing. It is finite. Whereas I, as Atma, am infinite. I do not undergo any change whatsoever. Right? I'm grateful to this body mind. It is because of this body mind I could go to a guru. Because of the body mind, I could go to my scriptures. Because of my body mind, I have been able to understand I am someone other than my body. Because of my body mind, I have had that pole which has taken me to that height, which has given me what liberation is all about. So what is this Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Vibhaga, and why is this so important? And this is going to be emphasized again and again in our subsequent 3 or 4 dishas that is going to come after this. As body-mind, there is no permanent solution to any problem. Today I solve one problem, but then I have another problem tomorrow to work on. That is as long as I identify with my body. As Atma, you will see, honestly, there is no problem. Whenever anybody comes to Bhagavan Ramana with any problem, his only question is, you have a problem? Who has the problem? Who in you has the problem? Inquire, and you will realize the non-essential you is carrying this bundle of problems. As Atma, there is no problem, and therefore this Viveka is important. How much have we understood of what we have studied so far? I know this quiz is going to be difficult, but let us make an attempt. I request Mamta to go a little slowly and make this a teaching quiz and see how we can understand some of the intricacies of this very difficult chapter. Mamta, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. We will now recap what we have learned so far in the form of a quiz. Srimati Padma will be participating in the question and answer session of this quiz.
Thank you, Mamta.
Next slide, sir. First question, what is enumerated in detail in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13? 1. Tvam Padartha. 2. Tat Padartha. 3. Asi Padartha or Aham Brahmasmi and Jnana Yoga. 4. All the above.
It is 3 Asi Padartha or Aham Brahma Asmi and Jnana Yoga.
Yes, you are absolutely right. It is the third one. The next question, second question, Arjuna's question in verse 13.1 has 6 technical terms. These technical terms in Sanskrit are called dash.
Paribhasha Shabda.
Yes, right. The next point is complete the following list of technical terms: Prakriti, Kshetram, and Jnanam.
Purushaha, Kṣetrajña and Neyam.
Yes, Prakriti, Purushaha, Kshetram, Kṣetrajna, Jnanam, and Neyam are the 3 pairs of technical terms. Then general meaning of Jnanam in Vedanta is
self-knowledge.
Dash knowledge. In the context of chapter 13, it is dash.
Virtues.
Yes, very right. Then the next question, sir. Next slide, sir. Yeah. Question 3. Third question. So can we hit enter? Yeah, Arjuna's question in verse 13.1 falls under three main topics. It's true or false?
True.
Yes, it is true.
True.
And as a sub question to this, the three main topics are dash.
Consciousness principle, matter, and virtues.
Correct. Very right. Then group the 6 terms, technical terms that we just went through in the previous question among these three main topics. That is consciousness principle, matter, and virtues.
Consciousness principle, Purushaha, Neyam, and Kshetrajña. Matter, Prakriti, and Kshetram. Virtues is Jnana.
Correct. Absolutely right. The next question, the fourth question. In the verse 13.2, Veti means dash and Kshetram is dash. What else gets added to? Yeah, go ahead.
Carry on.
What else gets added to Kshetram by Krishna at later point of time in this in the verses of this chapter?
Veti means Kshetrajna and Kshetram is body. And by Krishna later point of time, mind and world.
Yes, correct. Absolutely right. Then Krishna says, world is Kshetram and I am the knower of this world. What does I refer to here?
It refers to consciousness principle or Kshetrajna.
Correct, correct. The medium for the seed to grow is the land or agricultural field. And medium for karma in the form of papa punya to fructify is?
Kshetram.
Okay.
Kshetram.
Yes, right. Correct. The next question, number 5. What does tadvidaha mean in the verse? 1. Jnanis who are aware of the knower or consciousness principle. 2. Jnanis practicing nididhyasanam declare, I am consciousness principle or kshetrajna with an incidental body kshetram. 3. Jnanis who are aware that I enliven the body and experience the world with body as the medium. And 4 is all of the above.
It is 4, all of the above.
Yes, very right. Question number 6, moving along. In verse 13.3, as you can see in the top of this slide, Krishna says, kṣetraṁ mam vidhi. What does this part of the verse mean? Choose any of the following. 1. Kṣetrajña as Jivatma is Krishna Paramatma. 2. It reveals Mahavakya, oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma. 3. Every individual's body-mind, including Krishna Paramatma, is different, but the underlying consciousness principle is the same. 4. All the above.
It is all the above.
Yes, exactly right. Moving on to the next question, 7. Lord Krishna gives a comprehensive list on Kshetram in verse 13.4, as you can see on the top of this slide, that will be elaborated later point of time. Pick the correct ones listed in the verse. 1. What is Kshetram? 2. Nature or properties of Kshetram. 3. Cause and effect included in Kshetram. 4. Glories of Kshetrajna, the consciousness principle. 5. All the above.
It is 5, all the above.
Yes, all the 4 of them. That is what is Kshetram, nature or properties of Kshetram, the cause and effect included in Kshetram. Glories of Kshetrajna has been listed in this verse 13.4.
Yes.
Moving on, the question number 8. What is the meaning of prathak in the verse 13.5?
It is distinct and Rishibhihi. Krishna says,
no, we'll wait for the next question. Yes, it is distinct. And Krishna says before we move on to the next question, distinct means basically it is to be able to make clear distinction between the consciousness principle Kshetrajna is the only reality and matter, which is Kshetram, is unreal. Then the next question you have already answered. Krishna says in the verse, Rishibihi or Rishis. Rishibihi means Rishis. Through their scriptural work have talked about only Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Viveka, Jnanam. You're right. Moving on to the question number 9, which covers 13.6 and 13.7 verses. In the verses 13.6 and 7, dash philosophy is used in categorizing the objective universe or kṣetraṁ, and it is also known as dash.
Sankhya philosophy is used in categorizing the objective universe, also known as Tatvas.
Very right. And kṣetraṁ equals, kṣetraṁ has dash categories or tattvams.
24 categories or Tatvas.
Yeah, kṣetraṁ is nothing but the objective universe. So moving on to the next question, which is question number 10. Now let us look at what does the tattvam consist of? The 24 tattvams, how is it categorized? Prakriti, which is avyaktam in the verse 13.6, is in dash.
Potential form.
True, very right. Then, sir, Prakriti to Mahat is the first stage of evolution in the 24 tattvams. That Mahat, which is dash, what is it?
Total matter. Total matter.
Correct. Total matter. Now, Mahat to Ahankara is the second stage of evolution, and this Ahankara is
Ego.
Ego, but it is not the individual ego. We should not get confused with that. It is the cosmic or the total ego. Yes. Then from Ahankara to the 16 tattvams is the third stage of evolution. And these 16 tattvams are further subdivided into 3 subcategories. Can you please name the 3 subcategories?
Cosmic mind, the 10 sense organs, and the 5 subtle elements.
Very right. Absolutely right. Cosmic mind, 10 sense organs, and 5 subtle elements. And that makes it 16 tattvams. Now, from 5 subtle elements, the last stage of evolution, there is a 4th stage of evolution to dash. From 5 subtle elements to what? Dash.
5 gross elements.
Yes, absolutely right. And this makes it 24 tattvams.
Yes.
Or categories. Now, moving on to the next question, question number 11. Match the terms appropriately to the properties generated due to the 24 tattvams interacting and undergoing changes as specified, which is elaborated in the verse 13.7, which is listed below. And I'll read those terms. Sangata, Chetana, Ichha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, and Dhriti. Sangata is?
Body-mind complex.
Correct. And Chetana?
Reflected or borrowed consciousness.
Absolutely right. Ichha Dvesha is?
Desire and dislikes.
Correct. Sukham Dukkham is?
Happiness and sorrow.
Yes. And Dhriti is the one that is
willpower.
Willpower. Correct. Then moving on to the next question, question number 12. We will now move on to Tattva Bodha related questions that we covered in today's session. Dash makes Shariratrayam alive.
Atma makes
Yes.
alive.
Shariratrayam is a threefold body. Then the next one is Atma, Anatma, Viveka is 1, I, the individual, am a mixture of the material Anatma and non-material Atma. 2, time-space bound is Atma and time-space beyond is Atma and time-space bound is Anatma. 3, disidentify from Anatma and learn to identify with Atma. 4, all of the above.
It is all of the above.
Yes, very right.
All of the above.
The numbering is a little wrong here. Please excuse that.
4 all.
And the next question. Behind threefold body of an ant, elephant, and a human being, there is one Atma. what feature of Atma is being referred here? And the Atma features are listed to the right of the slide.
It is Atma Sarvagataha, that is boundless.
Yes, very right. Absolutely. Sir? Yeah. It is Atma Sarvagata, which is boundless. Atma is boundless. The next question, question number 14. Even after the bulb filament is destroyed, electricity continues to exist. Which feature of Atma can be aptly explained with this analogy? Again, Atma features are listed here to the right of the slide.
It is Atma Nityaha, ever existent.
Very right, very right. Moving on, the next question, 15. Fundamental laws of Vedanta as depicted in Tattva Bodha are, choose the correct one. 1. I am ever the observer and never the observed. 2. I, the experiencer, am free from the attributes of the experienced objects. 3. Body and mind are objects of my experience. I am the subject behind every experienced object. 4. I am Atma. 5. All the above.
It is 5, all the above.
Exactly. It is all of them are, in one or other way, the fundamental laws of Vedanta. And that should complete it. Thank you.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Mamta and Padma, for very informative based on one of the difficult topics. Thank you, Rama Madam, for a very interesting session on the initial verses from one of the important chapters. And thanks to you, friends, for your serious intelligence. Let us log in for verse by verse session 145 on 28 April 2023 for the final session on 18th chapter. Please log in at 6:45 p.m. sharp Friday. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.